General Hospital spoilers for the week of September 15th to 19th state that Jason Morgan will face a terrible choice, while Giovanni Gio Palmieri and Emma Scorpio Drake enjoy a kiss. Rocco Falconeri will also get to visit Britt Westbourne, so let's talk about what's next on the ABC serial. For starters, Molly Lansing Davis will struggle with her affections for Cody Bell, despite her efforts to drive him away. As Molly continues to write her romance novel, her Cody-inspired character will serve as a reminder of what she is missing. Gio and Emma are on the verge of having their first kiss. Emma and Gio will take a brave step out of the friend zone, so let's hope this love turning point works out for them. Over with Portia Robinson, she will strive to maintain her marriage to Curtis Ashford at least until the recent Drew Kane storm passes. However, Isaiah Gannon's friendship with Portia will ultimately lead to more temptation. Across town, Harrison Chase's inquiry will cause friction in his own relationship. Chase's support of Willow Tate, combined with unanswered doubts regarding Michael Corinthos, may drive Brooklyn Quartermain crazy. Michael is banking on Jacinda to provide an alibi, but there may be more obstacles along the road. Drew seeks revenge on Michael and will make a disaster for him as a result. On another subject, Jocelyn, Jax, and S. Vaughn will be unable to keep their hands to themselves after their risky adventure. Passion appears to be rekindling, therefore Vaughn and Jocelyn will have to keep their relationship hidden from Jack Brennan, who would disapprove. Speaking of Brennan, it appears that he will do whatever it takes to secure the Charlotte Cassadine visit that Valentine Cassadine has requested. Lulu Spencer has so far refused to accept it, but this could change in the near future. Of course, when it comes time to see Valentine at Steinmauer, Charlotte will most certainly have her own set of expectations. Next, GH teasers state Jason will be in a difficult situation because Jocelyn does not want him to reveal her WSB employment. Despite Jocelyn's request for Jason's silence, can he truly hide something so important from Carly Spencer, and if he does, how long will he be able to maintain the secret? Anna Devane will investigate Britt's return, as well as Nathan West's, as he will be back in the picture soon. In the interim, Rocco will have the opportunity to speak with Britt and interrogate the lady who gave birth to him, even if the circumstances were dubious and unpleasant for Rocco's parents. According to General Hospital spoilers, Lulu and Dante Falconeri will not approve of Rocco's growing fascination with Britt, so stay tuned for updates on how they will respond to this news. General Hospital teasers for the next 3 weeks indicate that Michael Corinthos may have some much-needed leverage. As Port Charles, Jason Morgan, Britt Westbourne, Jocelyn Jax, and S. may be forced to make some difficult decisions. Vaughn will collaborate to complete the story in Croatia. Port Charles is about to make a surprising return. Jason will convince Britt to divulge her survival when she arrives in Port Charles. Liesl Albrecht will be overjoyed to have her back home. Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer's lives will be flipped upside down when Britt arrives. Of course, Jacinda will probably sell herself and her testimony to the highest bidder because she is all about money. Michael needs her to provide an alibi. Will she back him up? Jocelyn and Vaughn's relationship will grow closer during the week of September 15th to 19th, but they will have to keep it hidden from Jack Brennan. Jason will be faced with a difficult option because Jocelyn is attempting to conceal her WSB existence and will undoubtedly require his assistance in doing so. Did Jason keep this knowledge from Carly Spencer? Drew Kane may still be in danger if the person who shot him wishes to finish him off. Drew will be ready to speak with the cops as soon as he wakes up. What will he tell them? Rocco Falconeri will be thrilled now that Britt has returned home. Rocco never expected to meet her, and now, despite his parents' desires, he has the opportunity to sit with her and get to know her better. Ryan Pavey will return to set for the week of September 22nd to 26th. Anna Devane will be concerned that Caesar Faison is somehow involved in one or both of his children's survival. Anna will have another case to investigate. What will she find out? Willow Tate may fool Harrison Chase. Willow cannot be trusted, and everyone knows it. Chase, what will you do to aid her? Brooklyn Chase will be quite disturbed about his relationship to Willow. Michael could end up making the decisions for Willow instead. The next 3 weeks will be packed with spoilers and unexpected turns. Come here for anything GH. Check back frequently for general hospital news, spoilers, and updates. Jason sat on the edge of his worn-out couch, the springs creaking beneath his weight as he peered blankly at the flickering television screen. The room was poorly lighted, with only the screen and a single lamp in the corner emitting a slight buzz with each flicker of its aged bulb. His hands lay on his knees, fingers drumming in a regular rhythm, revealing the tempest of ideas churning in his head. He hadn't moved in what felt like hours, despite the clock on the wall, its second hand ticking ceaselessly, telling him it was just 20 minutes. Time stretched as the weight of a decision pressed down on you like a 1,000-pound anvil. Jason's predicament wasn't just terrible, it was the kind of catastrophe that might destabilize everything he'd spent years attempting to hold together. It all began a week ago at Maple Street's annual summer block celebration. The air was filled with the smell of cooked burgers and sunscreen, with children running around with sparklers and parents sipping cheap wine from plastic cups. Jason had been there largely to keep an eye on his younger sister, Emma, who was 16 and had a tendency for getting into trouble. She was supposed to help with the face painting booth, but Jason knew she wouldn't stay put. Emma had a wild streak, and the spark in her eyes reminded him of their mother before she left. He'd been scouring the crowd for her when he noticed it, Emma, snuggled behind the ancient oak tree at the border of the park, kissing Gio. Gio. But Dad wasn't present, and Jason was not him. He was merely trying to keep his family together. The front door creaked open, and Jason froze. Emma went inside, her rucksack thrown over one shoulder and her hair a touch unkempt. She looked at him, shocked to see he was still awake. "Hey," she began, her tone nonchalant, as if nothing was wrong. "Why are you still awake?" Jason opened his mouth and then closed it. This was his chance, but the words did not come. He wanted to know about Gio, what she was doing, and why she was sneaking around. But all he could say was, "Just couldn't sleep." Emma shrugged and kicked off her shoes. "You worry too much," she replied with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She went to her room, leaving Jason standing there, his predicament greater than ever. He fell back into the couch, the TV still flashing softly. He couldn't keep sitting and waiting, thinking the problem would solve itself. He planned to talk to her tomorrow. Really speak to her. And maybe he'd check on Rocco too. But for the time being, all he could do was sit in the dark, listen to the clock tick, and ponder how he would keep his sister safe without pushing her away permanently. The following morning, Jason awoke to the sound of his phone buzzing on the coffee table. He had fallen asleep on the couch, his neck tight from the unnatural position. His supervisor sent him an SMS reminding him that he was covering an extra shift today. Great. Another day of hauling boxes while his thoughts were focused on Emma, Gio, and Rocco. He dragged himself into the kitchen, where Emma was already up, pouring cereal into a bowl. She appeared exhausted, with shadows under her eyes, but she said nothing about last night. Neither did he. Work was a blur. The warehouse was sweltering, the air dense with dust and the sound of machines. Jason carried containers, stacked pallets, and tried to concentrate, but his mind kept wandering. He imagined Emma sneaking out to meet Gio, her laughter ringing through some dark part of town. He imagined Rocco sitting alone, replaying that scene from the block party over and over. Jason was fatigued by the conclusion of his shift, but he knew he couldn't put this off for any longer. He drove straight to Rocco's house, which was small and tidy with a well-trimmed garden. Rocco's mother answered the door, her smile pleasant yet exhausted. "He's in his room," she explained, pointing down the corridor. Jason thanked her and gently knocked on Rocco's door. When it opened, Rocco looked worse than Jason had expected, pale, red-rimmed eyes, as if he hadn't slept for days. "Hey," Jason said, feeling uneasy. "Can we talk?" Rocco shrugged and moved aside to let him in. The room was crowded with books and comics, and a guitar leaned against the wall. Jason wasn't sure where to begin, so he just dived in. "I saw you at the neighborhood party." Rocco stiffened his jaw but remained silent. Jason pressed on. "I know about Emma and Gio. I saw them, too." This elicited a response. Rocco's eyes flickered up, filled with rage and pain. "She's your sister," he explained, his voice low. "Why don't you do something about this?" Jason exhaled. "I am trying. But it's not that simple." Rocco shook his head and turned away. "She doesn't even see me," he said, almost to himself. "She never has." Jason didn't know how to respond. He wanted to convince Rocco that Emma was not worth this kind of anguish and that he was better off letting her go, but the words seemed hollow. Instead, he replied, "I am working on it. I simply need you to hang in there. Don't do anything stupid." Rocco didn't say anything, but he did nod slightly. Jason exited, feeling like he had accomplished nothing. He drove home, his thoughts whirling. He needed to talk to Emma, but he wasn't sure how. When he arrived home, she had gone out with friends again, according to the note on the fridge. Jason's irritability boiled over. He grabbed his keys and went outside, determined to find her. He checked the usual places, the diner, the park, and the arcade. There is no indication of her. Finally, he drove to the auto shop where Gio worked. The club was shutting, and the lights were dim, but Jason noticed Joe's car in the parking lot. Emma was in the shadows by the side of the building. She was giggling, her head bent back, as Gio came up close and whispered something into her ear. Jason's hands tightened around the steering wheel. He wanted to storm over, drag Emma away, and tell Gio to stay the hell away from his sister. But he did not. He sat there, watching, his heart racing. He couldn't make a scene, not here or now. But he couldn't continue doing nothing. Over the next few days, Jason attempted to communicate with Emma. He began with simple questions about school, her friends, and anything else that may entice her to open up. She was evasive, giving him vague responses and fleeting smiles. He didn't push yet, but his patience was running out. He also kept an eye on Rocco, stopping by whenever he could. The child remained aloof, but he appeared to be improving, as if he was beginning to digest his emotions. Jason wasn't sure whether that was good or terrible. Emma arrived home late one night, her eyes bright and her movements wobbly. Jason was waiting with his arms crossed. "Where were you?" he inquired, his tone rougher than he had intended. "Out," she muttered, putting her luggage onto the couch. "What is it to you?" "Emma, I am serious." "Were you with Gio?" Her eyes narrowed. "What if I were?" "You're not my father, Jason." It hurt, but he pushed through. "I'm trying to watch out for you. Gio is not a good guy." "You don't know him," she snapped. "You don't know anything." "I know enough," Jason replied, his voice rising. "I know he's a troublemaker, and I know you're sneaking about with him. I saw you at the block party." Emma froze, her cheeks pale. "Were you spying on me?" "I was not spying. I was there and saw you." So did Rocco. Her eyes widened, and for a second, she appeared guilty. But her expression stiffened. "So what?" "Rocco is just a kid. He'll get over it," Jason said, shaking his head. "You don't understand it, Emma. This isn't only about Rocco. It is about you. You're making horrible decisions, and I'm not going to sit here and watch you get wounded." "I can take care of myself," she responded, her voice quivering. She grabbed her luggage and stormed into her room, slamming the door. Jason stood there with his chest tense. He had messed it up. He had pushed too hard, and now she was shutting him away. He dropped into the couch, head in his hands. He didn't know how to fix it. He wasn't sure how to protect her without losing her. The next day, Jason went to the hospital to see their father. He was awake but weak, his voice scarcely audible. Jason told him about Emma, Gio, and Rocco. He wasn't sure why, he just needed to say it aloud. His father listened, eyes tired yet concentrated. "She's like her mother," he said finally. "Stubborn. But she has a lovely heart. You just have to give her time." "What for?" Jason inquired, frustrated. "Want to dig deeper with Gio?" "To figure it out," his father replied. "You cannot make her decisions for her, Jason. You can just be there when she collapses." Jason wanted to object, saying that wasn't enough, but didn't. He sat there, gripping his father's hand, feeling as if the world was slipping away from under him. Weeks passed without any improvement. Emma was distant, spending more time outside than at home. Jason kept track of her as best he could, but it was like pursuing a phantom. Rocco started showing up again, assisting with minor tasks, but he didn't mention Emma. Jason was thankful for that. He wasn't sure how much more he could take. One night, Jason received a call from the police. His heart stopped as the officer stated that Emma had been in the car with Gio when it crashed. She was well, with a few bruises, but Gio had been detained. Something about narcotics in the vehicle. Jason drove to the station, his hands shaky and his thoughts racing. When he saw Emma, seated in a plastic chair, her face covered with tears, he couldn't decide whether to scold or comfort her. He selected an embrace. She sobbed and clung to him, and for the first time in months, he felt like her brother again. They didn't say much on the drive home, but he could sense the change. She was afraid, perhaps enough to listen. Back at home, Jason prepared her tea and they sat at the kitchen table. She told him everything, how Gio had appeared thrilling at first, how she'd ignored the warning signs, and how she'd botched up. Jason simply listened, without interrupting or passing judgment. When she was finished, he said, "You'll be fine. But you have to let me help you." She nodded, her eyes burning. "I am sorry, Jason." "I understand," he answered. "Me too." The next day, Jason visited Rocco. He didn't tell him anything, just that Emma was well and things were about to change. Rocco nodded, his face inscrutable. "Thanks for telling me," he added, and that was it. Life didn't miraculously improve after that. Emma still had her moments, and Jason was apprehensive. They talked more, and she spent less time sneaking about. Rocco maintained his distance, but Jason noticed him smile once or twice, as if he was preparing to move on. The weight of Jason's predicament did not disappear, but it became lighter and easier to handle. He sat on that rickety couch some evenings, the television flickering and the clock ticking. But suddenly he felt a little less lonely. He had done what he could, and perhaps that was enough. The air in Port Charles was thick with anxiety, which no one could ignore, especially following Drew's unexplained dealings in Croatia. What was supposed to be a simple business trip had turned into something far worse than anybody had expected, and the ripple effects were now consuming everyone connected to him. Drew believed he could control the situation, keep things quiet, and handle it on his own, but that illusion was destroyed when he went home and found the danger had followed him. Rocco, on the other hand, was unable to suppress his joy. For him, the Croatia tale was nothing more than an exciting adventure, a bit of gossip that made him feel like he was a part of something larger. He had no idea how close to the fire everyone was, or how deeply involved his family was in the aftermath of Drew's actions. While Drew attempted to maintain his distance, Rocco had a habit of finding himself in places he didn't belong, overhearing conversations, and piecing together secrets no one wanted him to know. His curiosity was limitless, and he had no concept what peril he may face if he discovered the wrong truth at the wrong time. While others saw disaster, Michael saw opportunity. He knew Drew was driven into a corner, his secrets slowly leaking out, and in that pressure, Michael discovered leverage. Michael didn't want to hurt Drew, or so he told himself, but he had his own family to protect, power to retain, an agenda that demanded Drew to cooperate or crumble. He had information Drew couldn't afford to reveal, and he wasn't hesitant to use it to gain an advantage in a game that was growing increasingly perilous. Drew's stay in Croatia had opened doors he had never intended to open. There were whispers of under-the-table agreements, connections with dangerous people, and debts owed to characters who did not tolerate unfulfilled promises. The trouble was that Drew believed he could walk away. He assumed that returning home would bring the chapter to a close, and that whatever had happened overseas could be forgotten. But secrets don't stay buried in Port Charles, and the enemies he made were not the type to forgive quickly. They had finances, patience, and a talent for seeing flaws in people's lives, and Drew had plenty of those right now. The first indicator of problems occurred when he began receiving cryptic messages late at night. Drew initially disregarded them, thinking himself that it was merely paranoia, but when a package arrived containing documents directly related to the Croatia job, Drew realized the horror was far from ended. He locked the files away, resolved not to let anybody else see them, but Michael noticed. Michael was constantly observant. That's when the relationship between them changed. Michael confronted him subtly at first, tested the waters and gauged Drew's reactions without revealing his hand. But as he went deeper, the pieces began to fall into place, and Michael recognized how much power he possessed over Drew's situation. He could use this to protect his family, close deals, and ensure Sonny's empire remained intact, or at least in line with his own goals. Michael wasn't cold-hearted, but he'd learned the hard way that in Port Charles, sentiment crushed you and trust burned you. While Drew tried to keep his secrets hidden, Rocco was blissfully oblivious of how perilous things had become. His enthusiasm for the Croatia story was initially harmless. He couldn't stop talking about it to anyone who would listen, believing it made him appear mature and significant. But Rocco had a habit of repeating what he overheard, and one thoughtless chat could land him in trouble. Dante warned him to stay out of it, but Rocco's curiosity was too strong to contain. Every hidden cabinet and whispered interaction made him more determined to find out what was actually going on, and his curiosity would eventually land him in the crosshairs. The climax occurred when Michael confronted Drew with an ultimatum. He told out what he knew, how much difficulty Drew was in, and what he expected in exchange for remaining silent. Drew's immediate inclination was to fight back, but Michael remained unwavering. He sketched a picture of what would happen if the truth was revealed. Sonny's enemies would pounce, federal investigators would reopen investigations, and the people Drew was trying to protect would be collateral damage. Drew could tell Michael wasn't lying. What Michael didn't comprehend was that he wasn't the only one with leverage. Croatians still had proof and were willing to utilize it. They were already moving in the shadows, pulling threads and laying traps that neither Michael nor Drew saw coming. The conflict between them was about control, but there was a much larger menace hovering over them both, one that may destroy everything if not halted in time. When the dust settled, nothing in Port Charles would be the same. Friendships would break down, alliances would shift, and Michael and Drew's quiet rivalry was about to explode into something far more dangerous than either of them had anticipated. Rocco's excitement would change to worry, Drew's secrets would eventually be revealed, and Michael's leverage might not be enough to save anyone. The Croatian tale was far from ended, it was just the beginning of a conflict that no one was prepared for. Jason leaned forward, his jaw tightening. Britt stopped before nodding, so you're saying the hybrid isn't the only one. If Dalton succeeds, there may be more. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. The realization hit Sunny like a punch in the gut. So we don't know who is real anymore? Before anyone could react, Brick raced over with his tablet. Boss, we've got a problem. Sunny turned sharply. Larger than a Phazon super soldier? Brick nodded grimly and handed him the screen. I hacked into Dalton's encrypted backup drives. There's a list of names, targets. Dalton tagged individuals for brain mapping. And Sunny, Jason, you're both on the list. Jason glanced at the screen, his heart racing in his ears. That does not make sense. Why would Dalton target me? Anna exhaled softly, putting it together. Victor wanted you. He has wanted you for years. Dalton's program was not random. It is linked to Drew's memory implant research. Jason, your brain was examined when Helena Cassadine held you. If Victor has access to that data, he can rewrite you like the hybrid. Sunny's expression stiffened. Over my dead body. But Jason's mind had already wandered. If Victor desired him, there was a reason. If Dalton's technology can reprogram minds, it's possible someone close to them has already been compromised. Later that night at the safe house, the tension in the poorly lighted room was oppressive. Jason sat at the table, flipping through Dalton's stolen data, while Anna examined satellite photographs of the Cassadine homes throughout Europe. Britt hovered close, attempting to decipher Dalton's neurological code, while Sunny and Brick fought quietly in the corner about security protocols. Spinelli rushed in, frantic, clutching his laptop like a live grenade. Stone cold, he panted, we've got a breach. Jason jumped up instantly. Where? Spinelli paused, his face pallid. Not where. Who? Before anyone could ask, he flipped the laptop around. The screen showed surveillance footage from one of Corinthos' warehouses. It was obvious as day that Michael Corinthos was walking alongside a man they all recognized, Dalton. Sunny froze, and his expression darkened instantly. What the hell am I looking at? Spinelli shook his head rapidly. Listen to me before you jump to conclusions, this is tonight. While we were here, Michael was meeting Dalton on the West Pier. They talked for 6 minutes. There were no cameras or audio inside, but Michael left with a black case. Jason's chest constricted, and his voice became harsh. Michael would never work with Dalton. Anna's demeanor was bleak. Unless Michael isn't Michael anymore. Britt was shocked. Jason slapped his fist on the table. Oh my God, if Dalton already mapped his neural pathways, we aren't doing this. I'm not going to make any assumptions until I speak with him. Sunny was already on edge. Wake up, Jason. If Dalton has gotten to Michael, he is compromised. That makes him dangerous to you, me, Willow, and, most importantly, to the children. Jason's look ripped through him. He's your son. Sunny's voice became deadly quiet. Exactly. Which means if Dalton turns him into a weapon, I'll be the one to take him down. Jason took a step forward, his fists clenched, but Anna stepped between them, her voice steady. Stop it. Both of you. This is not Michael's fault. If Dalton is influencing him, he is a victim, not an enemy. However, Jason sensed something was awry. Michael, he knew, would not meet with Dalton in private unless forced to do so. This meant that Dalton, Victor, or both were already 10 steps ahead. Meanwhile, in an unknown Cassadine facility, the hybrid remained absolutely still in the midst of a sterile chamber, with dozens of electrodes hooked to its temples and cascading codes flashing over the screens surrounding it. Victor Cassadine came from the shadows, his clothes neatly ironed and his look serene and controlled. Good, Victor said, his voice as smooth as silk. You are stronger than I thought. The hybrid said, "You're faster, smarter, and remember everything." It tilted its head and spoke quietly. "You gave me life. But I'm not your puppet." Victor grinned faintly. "Oh, my beautiful creature, you don't comprehend. I don't have to control you. You want what I want, chaos. And together, we will burn Port Charles to the ground." A quiet voice murmured from the far corner of the chamber, stopping the hybrid in its tracks. "Not just Port Charles, Victor," the voice explained gently. "The entire world." Dalton emerged from the shadows, battered but alive, with his left arm in a sling. His lips formed a terrifying smile. "You didn't truly believe you had killed me, did you?" he remarked, locking gazes with the hybrid. Victor didn't seem surprised. He merely raised his tumbler of brandy. "Hello, Dalton. Perfect timing. Let's start phase 2. Now Jason, Sunny, and Anna must confront the horrible truth. Victor and Dalton are collaborating, the hybrid is growing stronger by the hour, and Michael may already be compromised. The clock is ticking, and if they don't act quickly, Port Charles will collapse.